And delighted today to be talking about human beings and specifically what that means. As we differentiate ourselves from other species, what's important to realize is that we have purpose. We have the desire to expand our souls, our spirits, our minds, and things like that. And so today is specifically about that expansion. How do we establish? How do we develop? How do we embrace this creative expansion of our minds, our brains, our horizons, so that in bringing into creation some beauty, some magic, and not only just from a personal level, but even more importantly, as we collaborate together, improving our perspective of the world around us. And that's exactly what these two guys are doing at Burning Man. Really delighted to be, talking to them, experiencing their passion, how they get to bring art and engineering and sculpting and designing into a form of storytelling that can magically entice us all and inspire us all to a greater dimension. So guys, thank you so much for today.
Hey, thanks for having us.
So it's Jacob Breeden and Dan Zwinck out from Amarillo, Texas. And so tell us a little bit about what's unique about your art.
About our particular art?
Yes.
I think probably the biggest thing would be that we don't really think of it in terms of art. We use words more like build and fabrication, and we're thinking more as object makers and builders than we are in a sort of traditional fine art space.
So how does that impact people though? I mean, what does that then mean to the people that get to experience the work, the craftsmanship, the engineering that you guys create?
Well, from my perspective, as Dan Zwinck, the engineering side of this duo, it allows people to experience this art without dying. It's been, I got brought into this to make sure that things are structurally sound, relatively safe, and ultimately buildable.
Right. So you guys started at Burning Man a while back, but I understand from you, Jacob, that your background is fine art, and you realized something different for yourself. The meaning of the work that you were doing, and really finding that place that your imagination just can go crazy, and it's a gift for us to get to experience that.
Well, thanks. I'm a big fan of the Klaus Oldenburg manifesto. I am for an art. And one of the first lines in that is, I am for an art that does more than just sit on its ass in a museum. And I worked in museums, I worked in galleries, and I still have a love and affection for that space, but it is inherently restrictive. And when you're in that space, it gets to control the context of how your art is received. So when I was running a gallery, part of my job was to make someone's art look the way that a patron might expect it to look. So I was actually taking some control away from that artist. And when we build in the public space, when we build outdoors, we build for Burning Man, or we just build for ourselves, we get to maintain all of that control ourselves. And for me, most of what I'm interested in building is about play. I want recess for adults. I think everybody needs it twice a day if we could pull it off.
Right.
So what we're always looking to do is, how can we engage you in your normal daily existence? How can we open your mind to an opportunity that you wouldn't have seen before? And I like when we remove ourselves from that sort of white-walled, white-pedestaled set of boundaries, we get an opportunity to explore things that would not function in that space. And with the exception of people like Meow Wolf, who are now, bringing it into a new realm, there just hasn't been much of what Burning Man allows us to do that existed inside the museum or gallery world.
Right. When you think about it, and I come from the space of personal development and transformation, and being a surgeon as well as a coach, appreciating our own youth within us, our own child's experience, where pretty much there aren't any rules. The only rule is limitation of your own imagination, and that's such a magical experience for all of us. Some people are blessed with great times, some unfortunately not. That's not the point. The point is that as a child you get to dream, and you get to create things in your own head. And it's almost like when we go to school and we grow up, we're all put in a structured box where this is the way you have to think, and you have to think within this box. And I can only imagine that a lot of the art that we get exposed to in museums and things like that is also from that format. Some people are deciding what's great art and what isn't. And you have pieces that go for millions of dollars just because someone said, this is the best. Well, the truth is, and
for us,
what?
That'd be great.
Say
wants
what?
to say that in our work, that'd be fantastic.
well, that will happen, I'm sure. I mean, I've been talking to you guys for the last hour, and you guys are brilliant and so talented. And the fun part, what I see that Burning Man delivers, is that space, that openness to let your mind go wild and create the most magical and crazy and awesome things that are fun, but more important that you get to participate in. So, what's been your experience at Burning Man as far as what you guys have been able to do and what you're looking forward to do?
For me, it's Burning Man is the first place that I ever felt like what I wasn't so abnormal. The sort of the passion that I have for building and play and exploration and that sort of tie-in that comes with those ideas and an intellectual approach to them. And where we've always been, and at least the places that I've traveled, you don't really get to have fun as a grown-up. It's not something that people allow. And the first time I showed up at Burning Man and realized that it's just a big, giant playground for adults. And adults that are interested in the act of creating something new, something different. And that's part of why I fell in love with it. And you get to be whatever you want to be in that space, much like you were when you were a kid on a playground. And Burning Man, sometimes a pirate ship really is a pirate ship. And that's awesome that I can wave at it and it'll stop and let me on. And I can go be a pirate for an hour. There's something about that space to me that just creates that freedom that we lack.
And for anybody who's listening in,
on top of that is, in talking about that experience, not only are you encouraged to have that participation, I wave at the pirate ship, it's going to stop. There are people that are just sitting there, and somebody's going to walk over if you're just sitting there and grab you by the hand and say, no, listen, this is awesome. You should get on this and see what I just saw. And so you really... yes, it's about radical inclusion, but even if you don't choose to include yourself, you're going to be dragged along for the ride. It's just fabulous.
Yeah, and for those who are listening in and are not familiar with Burning Man, and it took me 7 years to get there, and I'm all about growth and expansion and creativity and thinking out of the box and problem solving and stuff like that. And what I found so magical is what you just said. It's radical inclusion. There's no judgment. I mean, it's radical self-expression. It's just being able to be absolutely you and having that freedom, completely. And that's what makes it so much fun. But one thing that I really appreciated what you guys were saying earlier on is that, when you're creating these cool objects, when you're building them, things don't always work out the way that you expect them to. So
Captain.
So share a little bit of your story or your insight on that and what it means for you personally.
For me, it's, and I think this may be a little different for Dan, but I won't speak on his behalf, but my thought about art making has always been that the better ideas come from accidental moments. Trying to solve a problem in some sort of way leads you down a path that you never expected to see. So you have to taper your expectations when you start to pursue a series or a body of work. And so these sort of happy accidents and sort of studio explorations have been a place that I always operated from. And I really embrace that. And when you're trying to build something big and on budget and you have to maintain a certain amount of integrity, that means there's a lot of times where I have to shut up. It's not okay that something falls apart and fails, at least not when it's done. So for me, it's I have to taper that part of my personality a little bit and let that freewheeling, it's just another mistake. It can't really be that way when you've got all these materials and things. And that's part of what makes the partnership that I have with Dan so awesome is there is somebody checking me all along the way to tell me that I'm pushing something out of a boundary that shouldn't be pushed outside of.
Well, Dan is the logical one. You're the engineer, right?
You're going to talk to an awful lot of people that know me, and I don't think anybody's going to refer to me as the logical one. My degree is, formal and logical. It's ones and zeros and lots of math and equations. But
Right.
yeah, I would love to meet the person that calls me the logical one. But let me just add on a little bit to what Jacob was saying there, because he refers to this buildup as there's those happy accidents, those things that I didn't work out and netted something better. But then there was also some of the not so happy accidents. The first project that we collaborated on for Burning Man 2016 was then it was a 30-foot tail for an ejolote, a big salamander bus.
Right.
And what we tried to do was to create something very big and very light and very easy to erect out on playa, and take this approach to accidents. And when we first put it together and tried to stand it up for the first time, it folded over backwards. It caved in the backside of my truck. It blew out glass. Everybody was diving out of harm's way. Everybody did get out of the way, but there are also the not happy accidents that come along with trying to create something new, exciting, different, outside of our comfort zone. And we take great strides to make sure that nobody gets hurt, but sometimes people get really close to that.
So that's that reference you made for not killing anybody or nobody dying, right?
Yes,
we make sure those mistakes happen in our particular studio space. That way, they don't happen on playa.
Right.
No, and again, I mean, I think it's courageous on your guys' part, to not only step out of the usual boundaries or traditional boundaries of what is sensible to other people, and actually, in my opinion, getting out of that space is where all creation does happen, and innovation as well. But it's the importance of we're all responsible for our own selves, and I think what's critical about Burning Man, and again, for those who've never been there, it's that place where people can bring their art and be absolutely creative and out of the box and put together crazy stuff, the most beautiful stuff, and stuff that you may totally not understand or dislike. But again, it's a collaboration, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a moment, but it's all about collaborating together and participating as a community to embrace what's out there. And like you said, that radical inclusion, and it's your own responsibility to be safe as well. But here we have your ajolote, which is the Mexican term for a salamander. And I guess what was important, what you guys were sharing earlier, is the meaning behind this project. And I'd like you guys to share with me, what the meaning is behind this particular project.
So the ajolote is actually a small walking salamander that is a significant portion of the Mexico ecosystem around areas like Mexico City. And it's in danger, it's at risk. We have something actually somewhat similar here, the horned lizard, which is indicative of damage to our ecosystem. We're one of the only places where it exists. And when damage is done to the ecosystem, it's one of the first things that's the canary in the coal mine, so to speak.
Right.
And so the architect and designer who conceptualized this piece were both working and active in Mexico City at the time. And so there is a environmental issue that is attached to the design and concept of this particular, walking salamander. And we wanted to do something sort of big and bold that would draw attention not only to the art car, but then allow us to have conversations about the plight of the environment through the vehicle of art.
So what I like about what you guys are doing is, you're not just doing art for the sake of art, but you're really doing several other things. And that's bringing a community together to collaborate, to build something, that people can be very excited and passionate about, but also with a message and a meaning towards, all of humanity, to save this planet, to save this world, to find ways for us to work together in peace and harmony, but in a very constructive and sensible way. And so, how does this collaboration work? And what are some of the things that, from your perspective, you guys are needing, or artists are needing, for that collaboration to be successful?
Well, I mean, a lot of it starts in house for us. We both Dan and I, at least here, have always actively worked to create environments that were similar to Burning Man in how they function in a basis of principles. So we create safe spaces for people who want to participate in fun and interesting things that we come up with. Whether it's building something interesting, or we have a group that we race little RC cars on a big dirt track on a Thursday night. It's just a way for people who don't fit into a large portion of this society to come and contribute with what they have to contribute. And that's all we ever ask of them. And then between the two of us, I think it has to do with the give and take of again, we talked about it a little bit earlier, knowing you have someone close by that will never tell you that your bad idea isn't achievable.
Right.
Is something that allows for that collaboration to expand. And, once you get beyond that, everybody brings something to a collaboration, whether that be insight, ideas, skill set, or people who support the projects and support them financially. There's an opportunity there for that collaboration to expand beyond. So we're trying to start a conversation. We're not just building an object. We're trying to start a conversation that we want to engage you in. We want to invite you to be a part of, and we want to use these objects as a way to meet you. And so if we have a giant fire-breathing salamander, we're probably going to get your attention. And once we have that, what we do with it after, I think, is the next level of that collaboration.
Yeah, and what's neat about that too is you're giving people the opportunity to be part of something that they otherwise could not be part of. And whether it's, actually, on the ground, helping, supporting, building, but also from a financial perspective. And what I love about Burning Man too is that, there is no marketing. There's no outside resources for funding, for marketing purposes or anything like that. So this is all built by the energy and the desire of a community. And so one thing I'd like to do right now is do a shout out to anybody is, look at these projects and look at what they're doing and find ways to give your support. Each of these artists, they have their own hatch fund or crowdfunding sources. And if not, just reach out to them and see how you can support them, because all this costs money. This is done mainly out of their own pockets. And for us to really, get to enjoy, the magic that these guys create, then in my perspective, my opinion is we've got to help you guys do that. And so anybody listening in, reach out and support and whatever. I'd like to jump over to the digital DeLong. I know you guys are all about storytelling. You guys are all about creating something so that we can get the story. So share a little bit about the digital DeLong, and after that, I'd like to go back to more of your art pieces that you guys have created.
So the project that we're currently working on for Burning Man 2018 was founded and is being headed by Ollie, who was introduced to me as Ollie from Bali. Ollie was very actively involved in one of the projects that was out there in 2017, and watching his hard work and dedication on that one, when he reached out with this idea, it was a really easy yes. Mm-hmm. Because it was him spearheading it, and also because of the importance of its purveyance of the Indonesian culture, this storytelling, this shadow puppet stage. The concept itself is meaningful in their culture, and then the technology that they're implementing to do this digitization of the shadow puppetry is just intriguing. It captivates my inner nerd. There was no way for us to not say yes and get involved and pour the next 3 months of our lives into supporting this project and helping to make it a reality.
Yeah, I was very fortunate to be talking to Ali a couple of weeks ago and experience, what they're doing. And what I love about this and what I love about modern technology is, and his point of being, and you guys as well, and so many other the artists that I talk to, is really bringing nature and technology together, and ancient and new together. And so with modern technology, we have that ability to share to a wide array of people worldwide the magic that you guys can create. And so that's what I totally agree with you. I'm nerdy on that one as well, Dan, when it comes to translating the ancient art form or storytelling digitally, like we're seeing right here. But you guys have a very special part in this, I understand, and it's really about building a structure around this playhouse, I guess it is.
It's we basically get to build the object that holds up all the cool, and that's something that we sort of feel like is, in a way, it's I don't want to say it's our gift towards Burning Man, but what we have the ability to do is look at something as complex as the stage that you see in front of you and figure out a way to build it safely, build it at budget, and allow it to become something that exists. So for me, the interesting part in that is art is generally in a lot of ways about ego, and your ego gets wrapped up in a project. And that's encouraged and that's facilitated. It's taught in schools. It's taught in the fine art world that there's a lot of ego that has to be there. And when you get involved in a collaboration like this, where your job really is to build all the parts that nobody's ever going to see, being able to release that ego component and allow yourself to not only actively encourage and explore and be a part of it, it's something very freeing about that. Mm-hmm. And it translates over into the next types of projects that we pursue. Because when something goes wrong in a project your ego is really invested in, it's hard to recover from that. But when you're able to just sort of look at it from that outside viewpoint and know that what you're doing is contributing towards the vision of somebody who had an idea that's well beyond anything you could have come up with, that I take a lot of joy in that component of this. We get to build something big and beautiful. Whether we design it or not, it's actually not the important factor. It's our job is to support Ollie in a lot of ways on this project and the rest of the team.
Yeah, I like what you said. I totally concur with that. And I think if we, as human beings, realize that we can actually set aside, that part of our ego that's not healthy. Ego in one form or another is important. But when it comes to being able to work together, a lot of wonderful things happen. And that's actually the premise of my platform, Prescription Free Transformation, is really tapping into that collective wisdom and developing what I call generative collaboration, all the things that you guys are doing. What I'm doing, my gift to the world is just sharing your work with other people so that hopefully people will find you and then support you as well. And that's what's pretty amazing. So this is the structure that you're doing there. And but I'd like to just finish up as, slowly wrap up and some more of your work, and stop at anything that you want to talk about.
Oh, really? Any of those that are in there? That one's a descending fence line piece we did outside of town. It's about light and fire and drawing awareness to a building that's kind of out of sight, out of mind without it. So it was kind of a forced perspective of a descending fence line, which is a common iconography in our area. That one was a lot me on that particular project. I had a few other people, but we didn't really work on that one much together. But yeah, descending fence line was one I did for a client. And right. Again, it was just a really interesting way to draw attention. It's made out of the original irrigation pipe from the farm, which was about probably 70 years old, that they gave me, and just to do something interesting with all this pipe.
Nice.
And so as we're apt to do, we added blinky lights and fire.
Right.
This is another one that predates the work that I did with Dan. This was a pediatric courtyard renovation. We took a hospital pediatric courtyard and turned it into a zoo. So if you flick to the next couple of pictures there, that was the original courtyard. We filled it with whimsical animals, with shade structure, with, again, a lot of things that at the time I didn't realize were going to become pretty useful in my experience at Burning Man.
Right.
And so we created for kids to enjoy art.
Yeah. What's nice, and I've already looked at some of your art, it's all of it's very intriguing. You're very much captivated, and to understand also the playfulness that you're developing, and really kind of out of the box work. Hold on a second. So let's stop here for a second. So here's some more work that you have.
Yeah, this is sort of back from my more traditional fine art days. Playing with light, playing with color, reactions to metal. We do a lot of exploration, and my version of that exploration tends to be things that stand on a pedestal, stand outside, or hang on a wall. But if you look down a little bit further, you'll see a lot of what Dan's explorations look like. And I'll let him talk a bit about that particular vehicle.
Yeah, and so my passion, obviously, a lot of it is on the mechanical side. I like to build vehicles in all shapes and sizes, which you'll see in the next couple of pictures. This particular one was a project that had just stemmed from, I had a pile of spare parts, and I thought there was enough parts to build a truck. This one that you're looking at now was abandoned in a storage building that was repossessed, and I got it because nobody else wanted it, and it turned out to be an ultra rare, highly sought after version of this old station wagon that I was lucky enough to acquire and bring back to life, and own for 8 months before the next lucky owner got to start road tripping in it.
Now, is this the predecessor of the Grand Wagoneer?
So this is actually an international travelall.
Okay.
So this was the 2-door travelall. This had the biggest, dumbest tractor engine that they ever put in the thing. It got just under 4 miles to the gallon. It had 2 20-gallon tanks, and I'd have to fill them up twice a week just to run back and forth to work, and I live 10 miles away.
That's insane. Yeah, it reminds me a little bit of my own first car that I got, which is, I love Jeeps. And my first Jeep was the Grand Wagoneer.
Was it so that was a wood grain Wagoneer then, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your first? It's beautiful.
Love it.
This one right here is actually to shed a little light on what can be my work day. This was actually going out and visiting a customer. We had done a wireless video surveillance system on their 60,000 acre ranch up north in the Panhandle, and when they had some problems that needed investigating, I was lucky enough to have just finished this, which is my first custom chopper motorcycle build. And I got to enjoy about 200 miles of saddle time and call it a work day.
Nice. Love it.
Some days are better.
This is one of my favorites.
So
this is outside of the building that we're in right now.
Yeah, this is the dumpster out in front of our office. But long story short, this is a 5-year culmination of all of my talents as an automotive fabricator. I built the tube chassis frame, engineered the suspension, built the engine. The body was given to me by a cousin, by a family member that just, for emotional reasons, needed to see something done with it. And so this here is Hephaestus. This is a 48 Willys rock crawling buggy that, after that scene where you see it driving on the dumpster, you also see the billboard behind it. It was actually able to drive up the billboard.
Is that right?
Yeah. So we have some fun with her.
And if you look at the next image, this is how, if you want to find us at Burning Man, go back one more. There you go. Yeah. Look for this particular iconographic truck.
Yeah. Stinky Pete will get hooked up to the 30-foot trailer that will haul out the 30-foot Indonesian puppet stage from Amarillo, Texas, the 1,400 miles out to Black Rock City.
That's right. Wow. Yeah,
we've been out there a few times now.
Yeah, it's quite the experience just driving out there. So, like to look at. Go ahead.
It has its moments. Now, a lot of what you're looking at now are commercial jobs. This is in a lot of ways how we fund the other work that I do, at least, is building things like conference tables. Again, the skill set for the work that we do is applicable across a lot of different dimensions. And so if somebody would like a, old-fashioned reclaimed wood and steel conference table and they approach me to build it, I'm happy to build it. It helps to fund the next project. So it's got functionality. I get to work with them on design. It's just a good way, similar with what Dan does with vehicles, for me to monetize the skill set that I have. Right. And that allows me to fund the next series of projects that I want. So these are all conference tables I built for a bank.
And you know what it is that,
lights are always there.
Too often, too many businesses are just too sterile. And that's the one thing that that I appreciate about what you do, Jacob, is you bring the fun into what you said, hotels and restaurants and offices. And I mean, that's really quite clever. And
our running theme is that we sell cool.
I like it. Love it.
That's another one that's actually here shop that we work in.
Right. So what about this?
This is actually some of my more traditional work when I was still doing work in a gallery setting. I did an entire series based on religious iconography. So this is the Virgin Mary. And what I was attempting to do is create a body of work that addressed and discussed religion without being confrontational. So what I became very interested in was all of this old rusted steel that I was finding while out hunting down other objects for my work. This one, if you closely, you can sort of see the haloed bundle, the drape of cloth going down. I couldn't stop seeing this piece as a Madonna and Child. And so what I ended up doing was about 25 or 26 pieces that were all based on iconography from all major world religions, and some of them are combined and some of them are separate. But they're all very large and very heavy. This piece probably weighs about 130 pounds, which was a questionable choice on my part. But I set forth a few rules. I couldn't make any alterations to the objects. I had to use them as I found them. But then I also worked to create combined iconography. So some of the pieces combine Eastern religious icons with Western religious icons. And what I found was the reception was a lot better than I expected. We're in a pretty conservative, heavily Christian part of the world, and people's response to them were for the most part, very positive. So it was nice to do that. It actually paired with a painter that works from the landscape here.
Love it.
I think there's a couple of them there in a row that were all built in the same mentality. That one has a lot of iconography in it.
Yeah, that's great.
That one
Beautiful.
as well.
Beautiful
A God
work.
of War.
All right, so a little few more, but anybody who wants to get more insight on what Jacob's genius is great. But we're going to finish up with one brilliant piece here.
There we go.
There's the closing piece that was perhaps one of, believe it or not, one of my bigger challenges in construction, because as we've said before, I'm an engineer. When I build structural things, I really like 90-degree angles and straight dimensions. And when my wife wanted something a little more whimsical for our first chicken coop on the farm, we discussed this collapsing barn Alice in Wonderland piece. And it's embarrassing to admit how many weeks it took me to build something that not straight. So a challenge for sure.
I get it. I hear you. Well, I really want to thank you guys, but more importantly, thank you for delivering your type of work. And I guess it's not just simply art, but it's your craftsmanship and your creative, building, if you will, so that people like myself and others can go there and enjoy an experience that is unlike any other in the world. And that's the beauty of humanity, is to be able to expand our minds, see things that other people can't see, so that we can gift them with new insights and new opportunities for them. And, one thing that I treasure about creative people is that it gives me the opportunity to see things so differently, and therefore, improve my life. And that's exactly what you guys do. And I'm really grateful for that. And as we slowly wrap up, Jacob and Dan, what are some last words you want to share with our listeners? And what are your expectations this year in Black Rock City?
We try to limit our expectations of Black Rock City. The more you plan for your experience at Burning Man, the more Burning Man is going to show you exactly how much your planning was worth it. It's,
right.
Yeah, it's a little bit difficult, but what we're really hoping to do is the project that we're working on, as we talked about earlier, is meaningful to us in so many different ways. It's hard to find a project that's intellectually challenging, emotionally fulfilling, that taps into things like history and then brings in this modern component. So our big hope is that we can finish up the funding for this particular project. If people go to the Hatch Fund page, take a look at the things that we're doing there. There's a lot more explanation of the project than we have time for here. So we'd love to be able to finish this project out. We'd love to have as much involvement as we can from everybody who is or is not attending Burning Man this year. There's lots of different ways to contribute. And the one thing we want everybody to sort of know, or at least that I do, is that what we do is we sort of embrace the pure part of ourselves, and we want to have fun. And the fun that we have, we want to share with as many people as possible. So the struggles that we go through to build the things are not always the most pleasant, but when we're done and we step back and we get to watch other people engage with what we've created, that's where every bit of that blood, the sweat, the tears, the yelling, the throwing things, the headbutting, all of that becomes worth it the moment somebody else engages with what we've created and takes something away from it. And that's what for me, what I want to do out there is I want to start a whole different set of conversations and see where it takes people.
And just to add on to that a little bit, if you are in or around the Amarillo area or have some free time and want to travel in, we're going to be putting together some work weekends. We've got a big dumb thing that needs to be built before Burning Man. We're going to arrange some work parties to help us stand this thing up. If you have a knack or a desire to get involved on the physical sense, reach out and we'll give you some dates.
And we'll give you something to eat and an entertaining experience.
I believe that for sure. Hey guys, I really appreciate you too, and looking forward to meeting you in Burning Man and seeing all the magnificent work. And whatever it is that I can do, please reach out so we can promote your endeavors and help you find more support and funding, or if it's anything else. So till August, Burning Man, guys, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
Much
Bart.
appreciated.
Cheers.